What if I told you that an AI model can now command a swarm of 100 AI agents simultaneously, executing over 1,500 tool calls in parallel and doing it 4.5 times faster than any single AI, all while being completely open source? Well, that's exactly what Moonshot AI just dropped on the world with Kimi K2.5. And honestly, this might be the most significant open source AI release of 2026 so far. Let's break down why this matters and why some are calling this the beginning of the AI swarm era. Kimi K2.5 comes from Moonshot AI, a Chinese company backed by Alibaba that's been quietly building some seriously impressive AI technology. And here's the headline. This is now being called the most powerful open source model available. Let me hit you with the specs. The model was built through continued pre-training on approximately 15 trillion tokens. That's a mix of text and visual data. But here's what makes this different from other multimodal models. K2.5 was trained as a native multimodal model from the start. What does that mean? Most AI models that can see images basically bolt on a vision module as an afterthought. Kimi K2.5 trained on vision and text together from day one. And at this scale, something interesting happens. The usual trade-off between vision and text capabilities disappears. They actually improve together. The architecture uses mixture of experts with 1 trillion total parameters. But don't let that number scare your GPU. It only activates about 32 billion parameters for any given task. That's the magic of MoE architecture. You get the benefits of a massive model without needing a server farm to run it. There's also a 400 million parameter vision encoder handling the multimodal translation, and it supports a 256K token context window. Now here's where things get really interesting. The headline feature of K2.5 is something called Agent Swarm, and this is a genuine paradigm shift. Think about how most AI assistants work today. You give it a task, it processes it step by step, one thing at a time. Even the best reasoning models work sequentially. Kimi K2.5 flips that completely. For complex tasks, K2.5 can automatically create and orchestrate up to 100 specialized sub-agents that work in parallel. We're talking up to 1,500 coordinated tool calls happening simultaneously. The result? Up to 4.5 times faster execution compared to single-agent approaches. But here's the really impressive part. There are no predefined agents or handcrafted workflows. K2.5 creates the entire swarm on the fly based on what the task requires. Moonshot developed something called Parallel Agent Reinforcement Learning, or PARL, to make this work. The system uses a trainable orchestrator agent that breaks down complex tasks into parallelizable subtasks, then dynamically instantiates frozen subagents to handle each piece. They also introduced a new metric called critical steps, inspired by critical path analysis in parallel computing. Instead of counting total steps, they measure based on the slowest parallel path. This prevents the model from spawning agents just for show. More agents only help if they actually shorten the critical path. In their testing, Agent Swarm reduced minimum critical steps by 3x to 4.5x compared to single-agent execution. That translates directly to 4.5x wall clock time reduction through parallelization. Kimi K2.5 is being positioned as the strongest open-source model for coding, especially for front-end development. And it's not just about writing code from text prompts. K2.5 can code from vision. You can feed it a video of a website in action, and it will reconstruct the entire thing, the layout, the interactions, the animations. You can show it a UI mockup, and it generates the code. You can even give it a visual puzzle, and it will reason through it, then write code to solve it. On their internal Kimi Code bench, which covers the full development lifecycle from building to debugging, refactoring, testing, and scripting across multiple languages, K2.5 shows consistent improvements over the previous K2 model. They've also released Kimi Code, a terminal-based coding tool that integrates with VS Code, Cursor, and Z. It's open source and accepts images and videos as inputs. The model can even do autonomous visual debugging. It inspects its own output visually and iterates on it without human intervention. Let's talk numbers. Moonshot compared K2.5 against GPT 5.2, Claude 4.5 Opus, DeepSeek v3.2, and Gemini 3 Pro. On HLE Full, one of the industry's most difficult evaluations with 2,500 questions across math, physics, and other domains, K2.5 achieved the highest score. With tools enabled, it hit 50.2, beating GPT 5.2's 45.5. On most other benchmarks, K2.5 came within a few percentage points of the competition and beat GPT 5.2 on several occasions. But here's the kicker: the cost. Kimi K2.5 delivers this performance at approximately 1/20th the cost of GPT 5.2. That's not a typo, 1/20th. On their internal AI Office benchmark and General Agent benchmark, K2.5 showed 59.3% and 24.3% improvements over K2 Thinking respectively. So what can you actually do with this? Office productivity is a major focus. K2.5 can handle complex document work, adding annotations in Word, building financial models with pivot tables, writing LaTeX equations in PDFs. It can scale to outputs like 10,000-word papers or 100-page documents. It's available right now through multiple channels. Kimi.com for free access to instant and thinking modes. The Kimi app, API access through platform.moonshot.ai. And Kimi Code for developers. The web interface offers 4 modes: K2.5 Instant for quick responses, K2.5 Thinking for deeper reasoning, K2.5 Agent for tool-augmented tasks, and K2.5 Agent Swarm for that parallel execution we talked about. Agent Swarm is currently in beta with free credits available for paid tier users. The full model is also available on Hugging Face with support for VLLM, SGLang, K-Transformers and Ollama deployment. Why does this matter beyond just another model release? First, the timing is significant. This dropped right before an expected DeepSeek release, heating up the competition in China's AI space. We're watching a genuine AI arms race unfold. Second, this represents a shift in how we think about AI agents. We're moving from single agents doing sequential tasks to coordinated swarms working in parallel. That's a fundamental architectural change that could reshape how AI systems are built. Third, open source is winning. The fact that this level of capability is freely available, with weights on Hugging Face and documentation for self-hosting, keeps pushing the entire field forward. Moonshot AI says they'll continue pushing the frontiers of agentic intelligence. Based on their previous release cadence, some speculate Kimi K3 could arrive in late 2026. Kimi K2.5 is available right now if you want to try it. I'll leave links in the description. This is the kind of release that doesn't just advance the state of the art, it changes how we think about what AI systems can do. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing for more AI news and developments. I cover every major release, so you stay ahead of the curve. Drop a comment below. Are you excited about agent swarms? Do you think parallel agent execution is the future? Until next time.